Okay, so we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Fireside Chat by Conquest. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Prabhakar Reddy and Mr. Satvik Vishwanath. Also, thank them for taking time out of their busy schedules and have a chat with our startups. It is always great to hear from people who have hustled against all odds and made it big in the industries. To introduce our founders, Mr. Prabhakar is the co-founder of FalconX. It is a digital assets brokerage that provides a single account connected to global crypto liquidity pools. It lets asset managers to execute trades at prices smart, routed across liquidity sources, and settle with a single counterparty. Mr. Prabhakar has also formerly been a VC at Excel Partners. He has headed a number of ventures before this. His previous venture, Dramatize, was acquired by BookMyShow. Thank you for being here with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
We also have with us Mr. Satvik Vishwanath. Mr. Satvik is the CEO and co-founder of Unocoin. His journey started by being an attendee and then a host of India Bitcoin Meet Group in Bangalore. His company, Ventures, organized the Global Conference in December 2030, which was the first ever Bitcoin in India. Unocoin.com is a web service that provides Bitcoin services that include storage, buying, and selling, advancing and accelerating the pursuit of technology. Unocoin is evolving rapidly and is bringing the advantage of this technology to the critical masses following self-imposed strict KYC and AML standards to keep its end-to-end processes compliant and secure for its clients. Thank you, sir, for being here with us.
Thank you.
Without further ado, I would like our startups to introduce themselves. Firstly, I would like to request Mr. Ryan to introduce Cashware.
I think Ryan, you might be here.
Are we audible?
You are. I don't know if he knows that he's supposed to speak.
Okay. I guess we can move. I would like to ask Mohit to introduce Pocket.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure being here. So I'm the co-founder of Oro Pocket. Oro Pocket is working on offering users a better way to park their money. So right now users can buy gold and silver on our platform, and we offer them a card using which they can spend it in real time anywhere online or offline. We are working on adding more financial instruments such as ESOPs, exchange traded funds, and so on, including cryptocurrencies as well. We're also working on adding more financial services on top of it, and it's just a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohit. Now I would like to request Mr. Punush, the CTO of Spathian, to introduce the startup.
Actually, we are. Hi, I'm Punush, the CTO of Labs. Actually, we are basically an e-invoicing platform for facilitating intercompany transactions and automation of tax reporting.
Thanks a lot, Punush. So we'll also have two other startups joining. I guess we could begin with the session. We'll start with a discussion. Our startups wanted to discuss various themes and aspects of the world of fintech. So the first theme that we would like to discuss is what do you think is the scope of blockchain-based payment systems and other financial products in India? So what are your thoughts on it, Satvik and Prabhakar?
Yeah, happy to go first if you want, Satvik. Happy to share my thoughts. So, first of all, welcome all of you. It's a pleasure to have you all here, and thank you for the opportunity to share any knowledge that we can. But remember, every entrepreneur has their own journey, and they come with their own learnings and experiences. So anything that we share here, please make sure that you take it with a pinch of salt, right? Because it comes with our own set of biases emanating from our own experiences. All right. So in terms of the scope of the whole blockchain payment systems and opportunities in India, I think first of all we're very very early in this entire ecosystem of the blockchain ecosystem. I would say we're in the 1994, 1995 equivalent. So most of the use cases probably have not even been dreamt of, right? What blockchain is allowing you to do is what internet allowed you to do with data, right? So blockchain allows you to do that with your money effectively, which is when you're traveling or relocating or moving anywhere. With 2 clicks of a button, you can actually take your data and move along with it today, right? That was impossible 20 years ago, but it's possible today. And I believe we are in that early phase of the journey where blockchain is allowing you to basically move with your financial assets to any part of the world with 2 clicks of a button and complete control over it. So in terms of the opportunities itself, and specifically with regards to India, I'll break it into three parts, right? When I thought about where the opportunities are today, and very evident, it comes down to, again, very common trends that I see across the world. So capital markets is one, right? Clearing houses and settlements, that's a massive pain point across every geography where there's stock markets. It takes still 3 to 5 business days for the clearing houses to clear stock market purchases, right? If you can get rid of all the intermediaries, make it faster and cheaper, we've actually done it on blockchain. I'm sure Satvik has done it at Unocoin as well. We have like ridiculous number of counterparties, and we've automated the entire processes and all the settlements between a hedge fund in Singapore and a counterparty residing in Brazil, right, gets done in 2 clicks of a button in almost like 60 seconds. The same thing in stock market takes 3 to 5 days. So there are lots of opportunities to automate these processes in capital markets area, right? When it comes to bank, sorry, is someone speaking something? No? All right. So when it comes to banking, there's a lot of opportunities there too. Remittances being the most one, right? There's a lot of opportunity to make payments cheaper as well as faster. That's a very exciting opportunity. There's trade financing. And I think one very obvious thing which a lot of people have not tried, and I would love to hear Satvik's thoughts on this, is INR stablecoin, right? Making sure that people have access to their own finances in a fashion, just like I do over here in the US with a USD stablecoin. Most of my assets are in stablecoin, so that I can move globally wherever I want, whenever I want to with my assets. And then there's general tech with digitalized identity and insurance concept. So I would break it into these three parts. I'll take a quick pause there, answer any questions, and would love to hear Satvik's thoughts as well.
Hey, thank you, Prabhakar, for sharing your thoughts. I have a quick question regarding compliance. So we have just opened our funding round and raised $100,000 a couple of days back. We are looking to restructure our company. We're looking at US as an option. So my question is basically to both you as well as the other blockchain members even here. Could you please help us clarify on how your corporate structure looks like? What's the company structure like?
Yeah. Trust me, that is one of the biggest nightmares of my life even today. I get PTSD whenever I think about my corporate structure. And there is unfortunately still no easy solution around it. So, and you should definitely not lean towards FalconX's corporate structure as a guidepost by any means. They're headquartered in Malta. We have a subsidiary in Malta, which has a subsidiary in the US, which has a subsidiary again in India. It's a very convoluted structure. If I could redo it all over again, I would either simply keep a US parent structure or a Singapore parent structure with an India subsidiary, right? After all the learnings, I think that's the most simplest solution. That is after having again like more $1 million in legal expenses. Satvik, do you have any other differing thoughts or opinions there?
Yeah, when it comes to the corporate structure, so for us, the parent company or the holding company is in Singapore. So the India one is the simple, fully owned subsidiary. So that makes it quite simple as far as it looks like only two things to manage. But the moment when we understand that there are like 40 different investors into our Singapore company, then doing anything like opening up the bank accounts and such will be a very big challenge, because then you need to coordinate with everyone to get within the last 3 months utility bills and such things for KYC of everyone, right? So those kinds of things will really be very complicated, I think. So yeah, there is no easy way of doing it, except that there are some startups which are providing a service where like you can distribute the share certificate by maintaining like a trust, and there from that startup, all the share certification, everything will be going, and they hold it as the ownership percentage in the company, but not every investor are already that far yet. So that makes it it's like little tough, because even let's say if I'm investing in a company, I prefer to hold the real share certificate than an assurance from a third party saying that I have the shares in it, right? So that's how different it is. But very interestingly, going forward, probably blockchain will be one of the solutions for it, right? When it comes to the shares and the structures and everything like that, right? So as of today, we have say different tokens and coins already distributed on the blockchain, like Bitcoin, Ether, and Ripple, and many such. And then we had a lot of commodities that have already come on the blockchain, like we have gold, like PX gold, so where there is a real backing of the gold, and there is the currency based like stable coins, which again is like there is real money somewhere sitting, and there are representation of it having swapping hands on the blockchain. But I think the logical progression for this would obviously be the equity of the companies, right? So, but we are not there yet. So, however, if you see commodities on the blockchain was also kind of little weird in 2013. So it took like 3-4 years for that to happen. So maybe in another 3 or 4 years, when people can start issuing their equity in recognized manner on the blockchain, it just makes a lot of lives very simple, is what I think. So right now, you may feel that today, whatever is a complication, you want to achieve it so that you get the money in, because obviously money in is more important than
we've lost
not
Satvik,
sensible. Then
I think
it's like a huge trouble going forward. And don't take very small monies just because money is coming in, right? So for in our cap table, we have half of them are angel investors, which I shouldn't have done. Is what
yeah.
Yeah, I guess we lost him there.
We
So,
lost Satvik. Complete Satvik's thought process. I know he was leading with it because very
is what
similar
I
yeah.
experience. Hey Satvik, welcome back. We lost you for a minute. Hey Satvik, back on this?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
he has some internet issues.
Just to double click on what Satvik was saying, first of all, compliance, and it's a very good question that you brought up, Mohit. Make sure that you have as clean and simple a structure as possible, and do it right the first time. Since you're small today, I would either a clean Singapore entity or a US entity will be the easiest for you. And the outcome is going to be having a bank account, because at the minute you're doing anything crypto, right, a lot of banks, just because they're in the traditional mindset,
I'm losing my connection when I turn on the video. Maybe I just keep it this way. So I'm just saying that having a company in Singapore is the most realistic method for blockchain in India, because that also gives better exposure, and at least incoming money and outgoing money. The company, when it comes to investors, etc., is much more easier because there are no strict capital controls there. It becomes much more difficult when it comes to, and also if you have investors from US, you could definitely avoid double taxation for them by having a entity in Singapore or any such. So those are my limited thoughts.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Mohit?
Actually, I just had a bad network and I got disconnected. I mentioned, I heard something about Singapore. That's what we're aiming for as well. We're looking at Gibraltar, Malta, Estonia, and even BVI. So,
yeah, do any of those. Like the challenge, as Satvik was mentioning, is you'll run into opening bank account issues, right? So keep a Singapore entity or a US entity and have your subsidiary in India. It's very tempting to go with BVI, Cayman. Malta is a regulatory nightmare. Gibraltar is a regulatory nightmare. We went with Malta because issuing licenses, but all of these jurisdictions are still trying to figure out their own regulatory footing and process. So they're going to use you as guinea pigs. And just be a little cautious before experimenting with the parent jurisdiction. Singapore is very clean. There are 100 companies that are already different fintech space and also in crypto space. So I would highly recommend that Singapore or US parent.
thank you. I really appreciate that.
And Satvik, very don't take 50 angel investors who own like 5% or 10% of the company, because to actually any change, if you want to open a bank account, create anything else, You take signatures from each and every single person over there. Makes the process very simple for you, right? If you're actually going to do that, just create another SPV kind of structure, put them all the angel investors in that, and let that entity invest in your company.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So the startup would like to ask something else regarding this topic, or any insights or any problems that you have been facing regarding this theme, as in the scope of blockchain-based payment systems in India, or any other finance products that you would like to launch in India, and the challenges that you have faced.
Rather than talking about general industry trends, all of you guys are actually running businesses, right? So what are some of your biggest challenges? Like, what keeps you up at night? Let's talk about that. If you can provide any input, you can alleviate that.
Yeah.
So, Prabhakar, for fintech startups, that's mostly building a brand.
Yeah, especially B2C, of course.
Yeah, getting people to trust
Yeah.
you with their money.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So look,
how did you resolve that?
there is no easy way around that, and that's one of the reasons we went B2B than B2C. So I think Satvik might be the better person to answer the B2C brand building. For us, there's like 500 institutional customers out there in the world, right? So a lot of it is using a network, warm selling to these customers. I have to literally fly into their offices, pitch them the product, pitch myself. They're not believing in the brand. The brand is me, effectively, at the end of the day. That I will not take their money and run away, because there is money from larger institutions, and if I end up screwing something else, right, their entire fund will go to squat. So effectively, I need to basically make sure that they trust me, the quality of the team that I've hired, and the processes that they put in place. So on the institutional side, it's slightly different. On B2C, it's going to be distilling what is the essence of the brand you're trying to convey, right? Is it trust? Is it simplicity? Is it the quality of experience? There are a lot of nuances to brand building in B2C, and I would say Satvik is a better person to answer that question. So I'll hand it over to Satvik.
Yeah. So when it comes to especially a cryptocurrency business like ours, I think like trust is everything, right? So people are essentially trusting something which is even unregulated. They don't have a proper legal recourse if something really goes wrong and such. And I think it's about perseverance and be in the public. Maybe that is one thing you can make sure, right? And you should be very careful when you talk to customers, when you communicate to customers, because a lot of them understand that the moment you say, yeah, invest in this coin, it could go double in a month or anything like that, that could really screw up on such things, right? So you should be very careful what communication is essentially going out, and you need to keep on doing it. So it is like building exercise. It cannot be purchased, right? So for us, it has taken 7 years to become where we are today. And just being available on the ground at, I think, over a long period will obviously will mean that people will start trusting you, because the other thing that could happen is if there is a huge backing, like maybe Reliance backs your company or Tata backs your company, maybe that is one of the ways you can get maybe faster trust among your consumers. But if that is not happening, then just being alive and be truthful to everyone is the only way.
So, Satvik, probably getting our tokens listed on UnoCoin would help build users' trust, right? Leveraging on another network, right?
So I think it is not building trust, but it is bringing new set of customers who are sole believers in those tokens, I think. So actually we have to, today we listed like, since 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th and 19th. So we have listed one new token, 1 year, 20. Right. So I think we stop it today probably. So we had to take away about 8 different tokens from the exchange, because they were not what they were eventually. Those laws were listed like 2 years ago, right? So we had to do some little bit of housekeeping activities. But now again, we have to add them back so that there is enough traction, continues to be traction. However, our main focus continues to be on the retail where customers come to us to buy Bitcoin directly from us, or whenever they want to sell it.
But while we lost
Am I
Satvik,
the only one that has lost Satvik?
we lost Satvik. One piece of
Yeah.
advice as you're thinking about brand building, look, think from the consumer's point of view. You're also a consumer of a lot of financial products, right? How do you perceive the quality of it? If you're getting something listed on Unicoin, for example, if Satvik goes out there and says, hey, trust this company, or your other reputed investors go and say, hey, this is a great product, go try it or use it. And if you're able to deliver consistently on that promised experience, right, that brand starts forming. And it doesn't form the first try. People have to try it. It has to be like a good experience. The second time, third time, it's the same consistent good experience. Then the brand quality starts forming and word of mouth starts spreading. So make sure that you're able to sell the product well to Satvik and other folks who can actually use their social media platform and reputation that they have to launch a brand in the market, I would say.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and if any startup is having an issue with the internet connectivity or they aren't able to speak, then they can forward their questions in the chat. We'll be happy to address them to our founders. So, thank you everyone for your insightful comments. The next theme that we would like to discuss is a general comparison of the government of India's policies with nations of the world in terms of its support of innovation in fintech space. So, what are your thoughts?
Do you want to take that first? I'm sure you've had a lot of run-ins with the government of India's policies on fintech and crypto specifically. So I think Satvik, you there with us? Okay, if I'm happy to do the first.
I'm here. I missed the last. What was the question again?
Sure, I'll address it again. So,
I think I missed the
yeah,
question.
it's fine. I'll address it again. So, a general comparison of the government of India's policies with other leading nations in terms of its support for innovation and tech.
Wow. I think in India, when it comes to the money and any other activity.
I think we lost Satvik.
Yeah, I guess the place that he's in has a internet issue. So, Prabhakar, if you want to go ahead and address the issue.
Okay. So look, there is first of all fintech in general, and then there is blockchain and cryptocurrencies. So the regulatory approach towards
They just keep dropping out. I don't know, maybe it's like connection or like what's the issue. So we're just saying to say that India is one of the very highly regulated country, right? So when it comes to anything related to money, interest, commodities or equity. So and now all of a sudden a new thing happens. It's always shocking for the Indian regulators because they don't deal with it. And on the other side, they are not ready to accept how the other countries have dealt with it. And it's like all these startups will be kind of left in the limbo, right? So that's definitely a challenging one. So, for example,
I think we've lost him again.
So India is pretty very slow in adopting to the new challenges. Is what I think. But I think that is the way it works here. So it's like a law of the land. But on the other side, if you see the number of customers you have, the diversity you have, number of cities you have, metropolitan cities you have, and population you have. So those things are like way beyond what we can really think of. So if I have to achieve whatever I've achieved here, maybe in a comparatively more advanced country, but because of the population there, the interest there, probably it will take maybe much more time, right? So maybe I have to establish the business in like 5 different countries. So India is like combination of many countries, and when it comes to that level, right? So it's very obvious. It is the regulatory is a tricky part here. right? So the talent is easy to get, technology is easy to make, right? So and even funding is not too difficult to raise, given you have the like product market fit to some extent. So the biggest challenge will continue to be the regulation, and you have to keep on figuring out how to make sure you are kind of self-regulating yourself and still try to keep moving forward. So yeah, that's the way it is here. You cannot help it. So there should be some challenges. If there is no challenges in a country, then like, anything is possible. So we are definitely not there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the regulatory approach towards fintech in India doesn't actually vastly differ from the approach that the country has taken towards full finance service providers. Right? It's a lot more stricter and stringent, and right out of the gate. And then if you think about the origination of all these policies, they were all put in place primarily for protecting the average mom and pop user. A lot of them in the past have lost their entire life savings by investing in some Tom, Dick, and Harry non-stickless fintech product. Right? So that is the origination for a lot of the stricter stances. Now, while India has, I can understand their point of view, what's happening is a lot of innovation is being stifled from within for sure as a result. But if you, as entrepreneurs, we always have to look for opportunities, even when there is it seems very dark and depressing. So blockchain and crypto itself is borderless, right? So it's one of those domains where you can be sitting anywhere in the world and you can actually be operating a product for any other region. And we're starting to see Chinese companies building products for US and US companies building products for China. So while sitting in India, as long as we're, I think, not allowing fiat to crypto conversion happen, and Satvik might be like an expert in this, I think there's a lot of innovation that can be done outside of that fiat to crypto conversion. So,
hello.
Hey, Satvik, yeah.
Yeah, but
Hello,
the
can you hear
question
me? I'm
here
right.
is not about how do you how do you go to other countries and figure out the things. It is more about how do you do the same figuring out within the country and how do you still make it work, right? So that's how I see this challenge to be. So I mean, on the other side, Prabhakar was asking me about the stable coin for Indian rupees, right? So I think now probably I have about 20 different individuals at different points of time who wanted to do something called stable coin for Indian rupees, but we don't know how to do that. The most tricky part, and no one is to do it like for a small scale of few hundred or few thousand or few $10.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a question here. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Who's this?
Yeah, this is Ryan. More like a comment. So if you take Bitcoin in isolation, or the whole technology in isolation, that has faced a lot of resistance in many parts of the country. It's not just India. But if you take that away and you look at fintech in general in India,
one of the
I was giving a
things for
talk.
any such stable coins to have some kind of say real life or validity in the country. So till that happens, it's unlikely for a stable coin to really become like launch. Maybe someone will launch it for a small scale, but for that to be as famous as how we have USDT, which probably is like lakhs of crores of rupees worth today already, right? So that we cannot expect to see with.
Makes sense, Satvik.
Can I say something?
Go ahead,
Hello?
Ryan.
Yeah, so I was saying that if you keep Bitcoin in isolation, so this comes from so I was at there was this Bank of Israel delegation I was speaking at, and what I figured out that they are still figuring out how to move from Maxstrip to chip.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bigger problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about India, you've got I think 3 or 4 unicorns who are payment startups. You've got Paytm, which is a mobile wallet, and it's a cardless kind of a platform. You've got I think 90 crore cards now, 5 crore credit, 85 crore debit, plus UPI has originated here. So when you talk about innovation, are we Bitcoin, as I said, it's a universal. So Bitcoin believes in decentralization, which either ways is a problem. Giving up power is a problem for any institution, which is not native to India, and that is the reason the global acceptance is not there. Plus, it's new. Someone who came up with a Ferrari when people were using slower cars, of course he was considered mad. So point I'm making is, when you talk about fintech innovation, are we limiting just because Bitcoin is not accepted there, or we are talking about other regulatory challenges as well? Because currently the ecosystem I see around is much more friendly and kind of open to innovation. look at what is happening in the prepaid sector. Look at what is happening in the lending sector. Look at what is happening in even the KYC sector, video KYC, for instance. What is coming.
Absolutely, very good.
Yeah, that's definitely true, right? So that's why we have even RBI sandbox and such things where some kind of experimenting is even possible before you go live and such things. But again, if you see, we didn't have that kind of opportunities maybe even like 4 or 5 years ago, right? And here it's always like when a new thing comes, it is seen as the wrong way of doing it. And then it will be the onus on those co-founders to kind of be persistent about what they are doing and figuring out how to make sure it is still within the legal environment, even though it's kind of unregulated, right? And then over a period of time, new things come up and it will just become friendly. Right?
I also had a follow-up question. I wanted to understand this
become...
from you. So both Satvik and Prabhakar, you understand, as I said, the problem with Bitcoin is not much the tech; it's the decentralization part. And we know how India is, and it's not again an Indian issue. Any large economy, any large country where you care, because there is data privacy, there are a lot of other things. Plus that there is a problem that institutions have been established. Point I'm heading at is when you look at a Libra coin started by Facebook, which is kind of regulated by Visa, MasterCard, and Amex. My point is, do you see at the end Bitcoin to become scalable? I believe that Bitcoin in some ways will have to give up the decentralization part. If you ask me how I see Bitcoins 5 years from now, I think banks will be using it just like they use UPI. There is a PSP, and there is a person there. I mean, it will be regulated, number one, but number two, in some ways, it has to be ingrained into the traditional institutions only, just like Libra is in some ways regulated by Visa, MasterCard, or Amex. But that kind of destroys the whole purpose of going decentralized. So where do you see this compromise leading to? Just to answer it, ask it in one question, do you see kind of banks playing an instrumental role in adoption and scalability of the same in country like India?
I have my own thoughts.
So see, at the end...
Sure.
Go ahead, Prabhakar.
Yeah.
I'll answer it.
First of all, for your previous point, Ryan, completely agree. There is blockchains and cryptocurrencies, and there's the traditional finance. And in like just general fintech, I think India is far, far ahead of even US in terms of innovation and the pace at which things are moving in general fintech, right? I've lived in India for 2 years and I've come here and I find the entire fintech user experience in US to be far, far behind what I had experienced in India with regards to payment, lending, KYC, and all the other things you mentioned. I think India is innovating at wicked pace over there, which is great, right? Blockchain and crypto, for all the right reasons you pointed out, it's not going to be just in India localized, probably with a lot of other countries too. Singapore and US are slightly further because they're trying to promote innovation, right? India has no burning desire to basically promote innovation on blockchain and crypto today. That's on the first point. But number two, I actually see a world in which, CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, might start playing a much more ingrained role within the next 10 years. Because for general worldwide adoption of cryptocurrencies, most of the people are not okay with the volatility of Bitcoin and also the entire decentralized aspect of Bitcoin. Right? In larger institutions today, we actually only cater to institutions here at FalconX, and we understand their point of view. They think, the market's manipulated, there's a lot of wash volume, there's a lot of shenanigans that go in the crypto industry. It's just like how the stock market used to behave back in 1929, right? 100 years ago. So we are a long way to go. A lot of innovation will happen. CBDCs, as you pointed out, might be the initial gateway point, and CBDCs might last another 20, 30, 50 years too. But eventually, even those CBDCs will start facing cracks, because I'm actually fearful of a world in which we're going to have CBDCs be the de facto form of currency. Because with 2 clicks of a button, you're giving any government the control to turn off complete financial access and control to you at any given point. Today, you can still have your money in cash, you can have your money in different banks, you can have your money in Paytm. It's a lot more, distributed if you really think about it. But if all your INR is in the form of a CBDC, think about, totalitarian regimes like China. You commit one crime or you basically post something against the government because, they find it to be a crime, right? What happens is they completely cut off your financial access. It can become a lot more, scarier when that world happens. And that's why I think there's a lot of merit to decentralized capital and finances. So I think the world will split into these two regimes for sure, where it's a lot of countries taking the CBDC route and a lot of other individuals trying to basically put their capital in more decentralized capacity. So again, very, very exciting times for lots of entrepreneurs who are coming into the space now. Sathak, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much completely agree with you. You kind of covered more or less whatever I wanted to say. Am I audible? Hello?
You are Sathak.
You are in pieces. Yeah.
Any further?
I think I was audible. I was trying to say that Prabhakar covered more or less the same thoughts that I have, right? So I don't have way too much to add. It is like he says, when it comes to CBDC, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, some people think that that could be a midway between currency and fiat currency, but I think it is worse than fiat in many ways, and it takes time for people to even understand, like in what way it actually is, kind of thing. And that is like you're locking up in a huge home, and you're giving the key for the home to the government. That's it. So it's, and you don't have anywhere else to go. So it's very tricky, very risky. But eventually, how the government sees it is also important. So it's like it will be one step for them to do anything they want than how it is right now. At least it is say distributed. And there are, let's say, if something really goes wrong, maybe I lose my bank account access. At least I can take some money from my brother or someone and spend it for time being. But when they try to do it with CBDC and they block my account, then even whoever sending money to it, even that is locked. So there is nothing called, the moment there is nothing called cash, it becomes very, very tricky, is what I think. When CBD is the only way for doing transactions, it's like screwed up economy.
It's not just for like criminals, right? What is right and what is wrong really changes in the society every 5 years, 10 years. There are a lot of nuances to it, right? You lose your freedom of speech, your freedom of access, a lot of basic fundamental rights, and you start living in a very different world regime. And that world is scary. Not saying that we are headed that way for sure, but there's a lot of pushback.
My honest observation is that so Bitcoin blockchain technology's biggest use case comes in fintech, but because of fintech, because the risks and things associated with it, kind of the other use cases get a bit subdued. For instance, I think it has a very good potential to play in data sharing, data storage in terms of healthcare, etc., etc. But because it's so synonymous with dark web transaction, it's about because of Bitcoin per se, I also do believe that blockchain gets a bad repute, which of course it does 100 things, out of which one is payments. That's a comment, not a question. Just sharing
a fair comment, but you should also see that the only reason we are having the discussions about blockchain today is because of Bitcoin's speculative bubble value that it's created, right? Everybody's paying attention. Right. So it brings in attention.
No, I'm on your side. I'm on your side, buddy. I'm a fintech entrepreneur. I'm on your side. I'm just saying. I'm making a comment. That's all.
So, Ryan, if you look back at the internet in the late 80s and the 90s, you would see that even then it was getting misused, right? With all the spam and everything. And
even the biggest misuse is actually cash, but we haven't banned that yet. So I understand. With you guys, all of you, just making a comment that blockchain is much beyond fintech as well. I know it's a fintech forum. All I'm trying to say is that the other use cases kind of tend to not be accelerated further because there is a repute on the coin technology of it, which also, as you said, it's a long battle. But I just think the acceptance is much faster when you do something for healthcare rather than fintech. But that gets ignored.
Okay. See, the thing is that
but again, when we're talking about India, right? So whenever. Sorry, so I was just trying to say that to answer like Prabhakar's comment, right? So it's not that you need to be criminal to face the problem here in a country like India, right? So let's say if there is a huge land in US and someone misuses the land, then it will usually be the authorities who will call the owner and tell that something got misused. Are you aware of it? How to figure that out? But if something like that happens in India, then the first thing that will happen is the owner will go to jail. Right. So even before he not even understanding what has happened. Let's say if there is a gold shopkeeper and he, without knowing, accepts some money which was stolen from somewhere, right? So then it's already his mistake. And we don't have, say, the exact way of doing things, but everything that is kind of related or indirectly related to something wrong is wrong. And you have no access to know what is right and what is wrong. So when it comes to these kinds of things, definitely it's become very challenging when it is like completely centralized in nature, is what I think. So for a country like India, I think decentralization is much more necessary because there are loopholes in the regulation which people will use, but there are also loopholes in the regulation that authorities will use, right? So, and they know how to use it better than we know how to use it better. So, given this way, I think decentralization at least will keep it sane than making everything go really, really insane. Is what I think.
Just to add to this point, Ryan, look at the centralization, how it works in India. Let's take an example of a monopoly, like, say, getting a driver's license, right? These people have no incentive to get more users to get driver's license, right? Hence, they're not going to work extra hours, they're not going to do anything, right? So that kind of government monopoly, especially when it comes to finances, is not very scalable. It wouldn't cross in a couple of decades, right? Second thing, if you give this to a private sector, then there are other bad components that keep getting added onto it. Hence, decentralization is very important. And talking about that, finance is the only use case right now. So back in 1980, early 90s, you wouldn't have imagined having a device and just pressing a button on it and you get your food delivered or you get a cab outside, right? We're at a very nascent stage. All these use cases are going to come up and the system is automatically going to stabilize itself.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. I'm not, as I said, I'm not against
true.
Bitcoin or this. I'm appreciative of the, the technology. But again, the whole premise, as I said, and that was my first question as well, that the whole premise of Bitcoin, see, the disruption is in the whole DNA. It is so cool, or it is so, it is so exciting because it's so disruptive. But that disruption comes at the cost of acceptance, especially from the institutions. So if today you tell an Amex that, just forget everything out, all your tech is point out, and that is what, even Prabhakar clarified, that, there is one way to go, which is controlled by bank, but that is not the only way there. I do believe that, as you rightly said, it's like internet. Use cases will come up, and use cases can be education as well as pornography, whatever, there's a good, there's a bad to everything. And so there will be in Bitcoin. So with you. Was making a comment, not making a, not saying anything on the platform. But just to give you one personal, experience. So so in Cashware, we kind of link multiple payment options and all, but we specifically took Bitcoin off it. So even though we have the capability, we took that off in our investor pitches for the simple reason that, people sometimes tend to ask, oh, isn't that legal? Or, is that legal? And then the whole discussion is about that, not the product. So as you said, there are stereotypes to it as well, both good as well as bad.
Any other questions, guys? Pinos, you've been silent the entire time.
Would love to know your thoughts on DeFi space.
And DeFi is very early right now. It's very, very nascent, even within crypto at this point, right? It's, if you really think about actual total number of users, is less than 200,000 users in the DeFi space. So we've created a large bubble already within the space. But I think the future is very promising, right? If you look at the initial use cases, a lot of them are against speculative. And the only proven use case in crypto today is speculation, right? People love to gamble. People are all sitting at home, and this has become a form of entertainment. Right, so if you look at some of the products, innovative products that have come out, which is like which is on the sides of yield farming, they're all some variation of speculative gambling at the end of the day. So very interesting innovation that I hope would result in something meaningful over the course of the next few years. But what's happening is it's attracting a lot of good talent to start paying attention to the blockchain crypto space again. So that's number one. Number two. The product experience itself has evolved on the decentralized product experience significantly over the last 2 years, right? All the challenges that we used to face from back in the Ether Delta days, I don't know if you guys remember that, in 2016, 2017, have largely but solved. But again, we are running into layer one scaling issues on Ethereum and other stuff, which, and again, there are other platforms which are trying to solve them. So I find it very promising. I think DeFi could basically be the next wave that leads to a lot of new talent and capital coming into the space. Um, and very interestingly, a lot of that innovation is happening in US today rather than Asia. Asia is still far, far behind on the DeFi space, but I think they're starting to pay attention right now. Satvik, what are your observations there?
Yeah, pretty much. See, DeFi definitely it's a huge bubble right now, and the industry is growing, thinking that there is like tens of millions of users. So that's what the valuations and everything looks like. But in reality, we definitely are not there. And today, because of the number of projects that are getting in, it looks like there is a really, really huge pie for grabs. But the reality of the DeFi who need that service for time being is very limited. So maybe we are building the ecosystem that is like 100 times bigger than the actual need itself. It's like really, really over engineering is what I think. So, but however, if you see in the year 2017 and 18, how this token economics and the ICO boom really happened, and then people figured out that not everything that got introduced at that time was really needed, and all bad ones went away, right? So we will end up facing something very similar. So that will be the consolidation. Maybe the consolidation year is 2021. I don't know. But right now, at least I can say that whatever the ecosystem is getting built is not that need is not there. And a lot of people go to DeFi again, not because they are taking the loan to construct a home or going for education or anything like that. Most of them are taking the loan so that they can gamble more, right? So when it comes to the moment you say financing, right? So either it is to grow the business, you get the finance. You construct a home, you get the finance. You do a marriage, you get the finance. But the banks will not provide you the finance to invest in stock market, right? So there is definitely a reason for it. That if something goes wrong, then you lose the collateral, everything. Right? So, and there is, say, a valid reasoning behind that kind of regulation that exists in the country. You cannot get a loan to just invest in bullion market, just like that, right? So, and you cannot even get a loan from my understanding, you cannot even get a loan to invest in insurance companies. So even insurance companies, sometimes mutual funds, everything is seen as a varied levels of gambling. So where, you put money and you get money out, right? So, and whatever DeFi space is happening right now, it is like same thing to the power of 100. So it's really, really like ridiculous, I think, where people are just pledging one cryptocurrency to speculate on another cryptocurrency. And right now it is just like, because too many people are coming, it looks like things are getting bigger. And people talk about, oh my God, DeFi is the future. But for how many people, right? So that's like a bigger question, I think I would ask. But if you see in the normal economy, say if there are, say 100 customers for a bank, maybe 10 of them may need some kind of financial services where they need some kind of loan. And given the very small percentage of cryptocurrency users, and then for them you are trying to sell a financing solution in a decentralized manner, and how many of them will utilize? And once they lose the money, then they're not coming back. If they win the money, then they put that money again on the DeFi and still lose it again. So it could turn to be a very, very big bubble of failure is what I'm really afraid about, because people are not thinking logically to do anything with DeFi today. It is just like growing. Yeah.
Just to add to that, look, the goal is not to.
So it is like you keep on doing it. Yeah, I know. So it's like keep on doing things in crypto till you lose money. But it's very rare that people actually take the money to enjoy in their real life, right? So that is tough. People are happy to see the Bitcoin or Ether or anything in their wallet more than actually leading the life.
Yeah. So we definitely have to look at the positive side of DeFi too. What it has shown is, so far, if you look at the way the startup ecosystem has evolved over the last 20 years. It's been VC to C led, right? You take VC money, basically give it to consumers to attract the consumers, right? That's how you've been able to grow almost any business, whether it's B2B or B2C. But the very first time you're able to show that using tokenization and incentive alignment, right, with your users, you're able to grow and build ecosystems and communities. We're in the very early stage, and that's why it looks like a big bubble with 200,000 people trying to just share money amongst themselves. But very, very interesting concepts are evolving, and we should definitely pay close attention to how this will evolve over the course of the next 42 years.
Sure. No, when it comes to DeFi, I'm not talking about the industry itself. I'm talking about the companies which are trying to take it. Right. So the number of it is like saying there are 100 people and there are 100 banks. So it means it's stupidity, right? So you need the right amount of companies for the right amount of people. And just because raising money is easier, you cannot keep on creating banks. So that way, at least the number of projects and the amount or the capitalization of these tokens, I think is definitely bubble. But once it stabilizes, I'm very sure the industry will have some future because no matter what you do, there are genuine cases, right, where it is used in the proper way, right? So anything that gets introduced, initially it's used for all kinds of wrong purposes. So though they are the first ones who will even pick it up, right? So over a period of time, only then the realistic use cases kind of stabilizes the ecosystem. So we definitely are not there yet. We are in this very highly speculative stage when it comes to DeFi over a period of time. So even like 2 years ago, DeFi was unheard of, right? So it's way too new today. Yeah.
I know we're almost up again.
So
Yes, go for it. Or someone had a question?
Yeah, so I completely agree with both of you. So, Prabhakar, specifically to you, considering you deal with B2B, now institutions have not been able to come into the DeFi space because of either the lack of regulation, price slippage, volatility, and things like that, right? So, how do you think that is going to change in the near future?
For any new sub-asset class, even within crypto, institutions, even if they're crypto native institutions, they take a while to basically understand and comprehend and build a thesis and move into it, right? If you really look at DeFi as an entire space, we went from the day Compound launched in like May 15th or 16th to like right now, $6 billion of assets accumulated in just a span of 3 months. A lot of the institutions are still trying to grasp their heads around what the hell is going on. But there is a lot of interest. What I saw from May to already in August, I could say about 10% of all my institutional customers are starting to play in the DeFi space already. They're either yield farming, they're either trying to speculate and put some assets over there, or basically taking loans. Right now, if they want to do a collateral swap with some token number 500 on CoinGecko, right? They cannot do that with any lending provider, but they can do that on Aave today, for example. So they're using these mechanics in very interesting ways while they're trying to learn. So I think the future is promising as long as all of this doesn't collapse like a house of cards.
Great. So we are working on an open finance model where we are tokenizing real world assets, right? I talked about gold and silver, right? So we're looking at even ESOPs and energy, solar and things like that, right? So we're coming up with a model where you don't even need a central authority or an exchange to buy and sell these. You can literally do it over the network itself, right? So is it possible that perhaps I can share some details with you and get your feedback on it? Same for you, Satvik, as well.
Sure, absolutely, anytime. I think we are all on email. If not, Ratnaraj and Yash, can you introduce all the panelists to us so that we can share our email addresses and then we can talk to them.
Thank you, Prabhakar. I really appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah. I'm happy to answer any questions that these panelists or it could be the viewers or anyone would ask. I mean, I generally do that. Or else in my Twitter as well, the DMs are always open. So anyone can just send a message and I'm happy to reply.
So Satvik, we are already connected on WhatsApp. I'm just gonna DM you right away as soon as the call ends because you're not very clear or perhaps my audio here is bad, but I'm not able to catch most of it.
Sure. Anyway, we can connect on WhatsApp or anywhere else. Happy to just get on a call some of that. So let's do that.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Sure. So, any other startup would like to pose any questions for a discussion? Sparkin Labs, Punus, if you would like to ask something to our CEOs, founders.
If not,
So,
I think, yeah, we're up against
yeah.
time. So thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. We appreciate it. As Satvik mentioned earlier, if there's anything, just feel free to reach out to us on Twitter, anytime DMs, LinkedIn, or Yash will connect us all over email. So feel free to reach out on that.
Sure. So, I guess we'll conclude the session then. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining us. I would like to thank Satvik for being here with us. Considering the fact that you are a veteran in the fintech industry, I'm sure that all our startups would have really enjoyed having a chat with you. I would also like to thank Prabhakar for being here with us. Yeah, you have presented some really valuable insights, and I'm sure our startups have had a great experience hearing your views. I would like to thank both of you on behalf of our Conquest team, and you can connect with our startups for further communication and guidance. Thank you to all the startups for being there and initiating such an insightful discussion on the broad topic of fintech. And it was a pleasure hosting you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. And good luck to
Yeah,
all
no
the
problem.
entrepreneurs in the
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
okay.
so much. Bye. Ciao.